If you talk with any really successful person, you'll find this in common with all of them. It's that they have three main people in their lives. And these three people could change at any given point, but there's always somebody sitting in each of these three seats in a successful person's life. And I promise you, if you analyze the people in your life, you probably have each of these three people around you already, but you just might not be leveraging them the way that you really should be. The three most important people to have for your success are somebody to prove wrong, somebody who's your cheerleader, and somebody who's your mentor. I'm sure if you think back, there have probably been times in your life where you can remember, I don't know, a family member or a teacher or a boss who told you that you would never achieve any real kind of success. In my life, I remember I had an English teacher who told me that I would never really be a good writer. And I never got good grades in her class. But then I went on to write a book. It became a best-selling book in the health field, and then several more books, and we sold over 1 million copies of books. And I did that always with her in the back of my head trying to prove her wrong. In your life, it might be an aunt or an uncle who told you to stop dreaming so big and just focus on following the crowd. But most of those people are just unhappy in their lives, and they don't want to believe that somebody like you or anybody else could outshine them or any of the accomplishments that they've had. It makes them feel better to think that nobody could do better than they can. You need somebody like that on your team because as human beings, we often do more to avoid pain than to gain pleasure. So sometimes we'll keep pushing towards our goals even harder to prove somebody wrong than we will just for the actual reward. The next person is somebody who will be your cheerleader. And that's a person who, even when you're down, they'll remind you what you are capable of. And maybe they're not even physically with you, but you can clearly hear them in the back of your head reminding you how great you are, even during dark times. We need that kind of person in our life because if your goal is big enough, we always need a reminder that we're not alone. Otherwise, achieving worthwhile goals seems way too hard. But when you have a cheerleader on your side, all the crap you have to go through doesn't seem so heavy. And the third person you need is a mentor, somebody who's already accomplished what you want to accomplish multiple times, and they're willing to stop what they're doing to guide you past all the landmines. Because when you have somebody like that on your team, they can save you years of efforts. The problem is that most entrepreneurs try to force people into those roles, and that never works. Let me give you a couple of examples of the wrong people for those roles and how you could become far more successful and make far more money and 10, 20, 50x your company and be much happier just by fixing this one thing in your life. Because most entrepreneurs think their cheerleader, for example, is their husband or their wife. And they think the person who they need to prove is wrong is their business rival because they want to grow larger than that person. And they think that a consultant that they hire is their mentor. But all three of those could be 100% wrong and be an anchor to your growth. Because even though a good marriage should include unconditional support, it's got to be balanced. So there's going to be days or weeks or maybe even months that you're not going to be getting the cheerleading that you need from them, and you're going to need to be the cheerleader for them. And that's fair. But you need somebody or a group of people who will always shoot you straight, but remind you of how strong you are so that you keep pushing forward in business and in life. And sometimes that's a spouse, but that's a lot of pressure to put on them. And it can destroy a relationship if it's not balanced. And if your spouse doesn't understand the entrepreneurial mindset, that fucked up entrepreneurial mindset, then it could get out of balance super fast. So yes, be open to your spouse and lean on them when it's appropriate, but you need an actual cheerleader. I was having a conversation with a guy who owns a multi-billion-dollar company, and he was telling me about his apprenticeship program. And he said how much these 20-year-old employees loved being part of it and how he would take them out to dinner once a month and answer all of their questions. He loved it, they loved it, but what he got most excited about was how much energy he walked away from those dinners with. He said it was like plugging into an energy source because each person at that table just glorified him. So he left that dinner remembering all the great things that he had built in the past and all the struggles that he overcame and all the lessons that he learned, and he left feeling like he could take on the world. Nothing reminds you of your greatness more than spending time with people who look up to you. The next mistake most entrepreneurs make is thinking that their rival in business is the person that they need to prove wrong. I mean, it might be, but that's rare because they might be beating you every single day in, I don't know, their marketing or in their branding or in the numbers of customer reviews that they've got out there. It's a daily beatdown for you sometimes. You need to choose somebody who's tried to set limits on you in the past, because that metric never moves. Pick a bully from your school years, or a teacher, or a parent, or somebody who told you that you'd never be thin or successful or own a big house or drive an Aston Martin Valkyrie. Whatever it is, pick somebody and then pick the targets that you need to hit to prove to yourself that you overcame the limits that they thought you couldn't blow past. The final mistake that most entrepreneurs make is in the mentor that they choose, because most people think that a consultant is a mentor. But a normal consultant is just somebody who has experience doing one thing, right? They're good at developing SOPs, or they're good at helping you manage your time, or whatever it is. Most consultants don't have a track record of building multiple companies that are larger than yours. But those are the people who can pull you up with them. Those are the people who can open up doors for you with one phone call, and who understand how each decision you make is going to impact your entire life because they've lived through it multiple times already. Those are the people who know when to hire a full-time CEO or a part-time consultant or a COO. And sometimes a mentor is not just one person, right? In my life, at least, it started with one. And for years, that one person pulled me up in my business life and in my personal life, and he helped me brainstorm through most of the biggest decisions in my life. But then, when I was selling my first large company, at his suggestion, I brought on a second mentor, both of who are still with me 20 years later. But more than just those two people, I have a board. And those people on that board have all grown multiple companies that are either my size or far, far larger. So you get knowledge from your mentors, you get support from your cheerleaders, and you get motivation from the person you want to prove wrong. And depending on what's going on in your life, all of them will help you grow more and have more and be more than you ever could without them. Hope you got value out of this. And if you did, please subscribe. And if you have a topic that you'd like covered or a question that you'd like answered, just let me know in the comments. I'll see you in the next video.